Sigma Series for Formula Atlantic cars decided the South African national racing champion for 1981. 12 races comprised the series, of which 6 took place at Kyalami. Killarney in Cape Town and Goldfields had 2 each, whilst Pietermaritzburg and Port Elizabeth each hosted 1 event.
What is the difference? What's so important about the new car?
Well, Dave, if we go over to the March 77 over here, you'll notice that it has a very well-defined front nose section and a large wing on the rear. Now, most of the downforce which gives you the actual grip is created by these wing sections on the front and on the rear. The area between the wheels be completely free. Whereas
on each side of the car, situated within the side pods, are inverted wing sections similar to the wing at the rear of a car, which have the opposite effect of an aircraft wing, and therefore increase the downforce along the length of the car to improve. Tony Martin, 1980 champion, had imported a Formula 2 Maurer chassis with which to defend his title. Bernard Tilanus, who led the 1980 championship for the first half of the season and eventually finished third, was one of Martin's main challengers. The first race was at Kyalami on a slightly damp track with Tony Martin in pole position and Tilanus alongside him on the front row of the grid. The 3 fastest cars were all new wing cars, but of different manufacture: a Maurer, a Ralt RT2 and a March 802. Tilanus leads into Crowthorne, but young Duplessis gets it all wrong, recovers and drops to the tail end of the field. Regulations for South African Formula Atlantic racing require the motors to be based on production car engines within certain capacity limits. After various engines had been tried, all competitors standardized on the Mazda rotary, which produces about 250 horsepower in racing trim. Bernard Tilanus was first across the line, followed by Tony Martin and Dave Hart. The scene moved to the Free State Goldfields for the second encounter. Tension was high, and Tony Martin was determined to avenge his Kyalami defeat. This time it was Tony Martin who claimed pole, but Tilanus was beside him as they went off on their pace lap. cars touched as they went into the S-bend shortly after the start of the race, and two of them got going again after a slight delay. Bricknell wasn't so lucky. His car burst into flames. He jumped clear and was unhurt, whilst the fire was soon brought under control by the efficient marshals. Taking the bend into the pit straight, Trevor Van Rooyen overdid it, trying to keep his March 802 in touch with the leaders, but recovered without dropping a place. Some drivers found keeping to the tarmac too tame. Martin took the checkered flag, closely followed by Tilanus. Last national championship race at Pietermaritzburg's Roy Hesketh circuit before it was ripped up to become yet another township development was a nostalgic occurrence for thousands of motor racing fans. To appear in the leading positions. Graham Duxbury, the 79 Formula Ford champion, who had spent the 1980 season in the UK widening his racing experience, took the lead and held it to the finish in his relatively outdated March 77B. Another young graduate from the Formula Ford school, Wayne Taylor, took second place, whilst Martin could only make third, and Tilanus drove the Ralt for the last time and finished fourth. Cape Town's Killarney circuit, a relatively tight 3,267 kilometre track built in the sand dunes overlooking Table Mountain, the scene of the next race. Championship positions at this stage were Tilanus 54 points, Martin 48 and Graham Duxbury 31. It was a two-heat race. Martin won the first from Wayne Taylor after Duxbury stopped with a punctured tyre. Dux, however, made no mistake in the second heat and led Martin and Trevor Van Rooyen across the line, whilst the unlucky Tilanus was black flagged for dropping oil. A dejected Bernard Tilanus watched his championship hopes dip with the setting sun. Tony Martin regained the lead in the championship race, but was only 3 points ahead of Tilanus.
Unfortunately, I didn't know at the time that the pulley that I put on the front of the motor came out on RX2 instead of a Capella engine, which is slightly shorter. So it unfortunately was rubbing against the oil seal in the front of the motor, and it burnt the oil seal away, so all the oil started to come out. And the officials didn't like the oil there, so they black flagged me.
And I think this year has been the closest year that I can ever remember. You've got a couple of new lads come in who are really goers. They've got their machinery going very well. And I think, as you can see by the point situation, the championship is very, very close.
About on lap 6, the car started to understeer really badly. I knew there was something wrong, wasn't exactly certain. And on lap 12, the front tyre burst completely. What was happening was just getting softer and softer, and eventually it burst. And Tony passed me going into Malmesbury. That was it. I just completed that lap and brought the car to the pits.
The next 2 races were at Kyalami and Velkom, and by the time the circus arrived in Port Elizabeth for the 9th round, a number of driver changes had taken place. Wayne Taylor moved to Pretoria Brick. Bernard Tilanus took over the DAW car vacated by Van Rooyen, who stepped into the Rackrite March 77B. New names, but old faces returned to single-seater racing. Dave Charlton took over the DAW March 802, and Roy Klomfass drove the Rackrite Ralt to victory in both heats. His first Sigma Series race on the tight Aldo Scribante circuit. Duxbury looks for a gap and takes to the dirt to try for an inside line at the end of the straight, but Tilanus closes the door firmly. Novka, making a one-off appearance, heads for the pits and retirement. Another old hand who made a comeback was ex-Formula 5000 pilot John McNichol. Klomfass takes the flag. Tony Martin finishes second, moving into a 14-point lead over his arch-rival Bernard Tilanus. The championship was entering its closing stages as the teams assembled for the 10th round at Kyalami. Incidentally, the drivers swerve their cars around on the parade lap to heat up their tires as they work more efficiently when warm. Martin is only lying 7th. John McNichol spins entering the corner and causes those following him to take evasive action. It was here in the previous Kyalami race that Tony Martin, Graham Duxbury and Wayne Taylor collided on the first lap, resulting in all three drivers retiring from the race. Duxbury and Tilanus pulled away from the field, Graham setting a new Formula Atlantic lap record of 1 minute 21,33 seconds, just 1/100th of a second faster than Tilanus' quickest lap. Smoke haze from Dave Charlton's March indicates an oil problem, and shortly thereafter, the ex-South African champion retired. Not before he had liberally covered the circuit in a film of oil, which allowed Tilanus to close right up on Duxbury. Taylor's old March suffered a chassis breakage as he braked for Clubhouse Bend, sending the unfortunate Taylor into the catch fences and the wall. He was lucky to get away with a severe winding and an injured wrist. His car, however, was a lot worse off. Duxbury crossed the line less than half a second ahead of Tilanus, whilst Martin couldn't do better than fifth. The championship points were Martin 109, Tilanus 103 and Duxbury 83. There is a minimum weight limit applicable to this form of racing, and after the race the scrutineers impounded the leading machines to ensure they complied. In addition, the rear wing may not be higher than 90 centimeters from the ground, and this was also checked. All the cars were found to be legal.
Well, it went very well. It started off particularly well with a good start. Got down to Crowthorne first. And for the first 8 or so laps, I had Bernard about half a second behind me, which was big enough to fill both mirrors. Then I pulled away a bit, and you had about a second lead, and then the oil came down. And I went off, sort of, well, half went off, you can say, through Sunset and very slow through Clubhouse. And Bernard caught me and actually touched me and tried to push me off, I'm sure. Anyway, I won the race, which is what's important, and I was very happy about it. Brings me a lot closer to Bernard in the championship as well.
I'm second in the championship. I've now closed up on Tony Martin. I'm now only 6 points behind him. Having finished second today to Graham, and Tony only finishing fifth today. He only got 4 points.
The penultimate round of the championship had taken place at Killarney in Cape Town, where Duxbury again won both heats. Martin was second, and Tilanus fourth in the first heat and third in the second. Tension was high as the cars were wheeled out for their final outing of the season at Kyalami.
We're leading by 11 points at the moment. We're leading Bernard Tilanus. This means Bernard must win the race or come second, with me coming third or sixth for me to clinch the championship. So as you see, the situation is pretty tense.
Mike Reed, clerk of the course, flags the field away on the parade lap. Neither of the contenders were on the front row of the grid. Trevor Van Rooyen was in pole position with Graham Duxbury, now sporting Hekro blue livery, alongside him. Tilanus and Martin were next up, and 14 cars faced the starter. Duxbury led as the field swept under the bridge. Martin was second. Both Van Rooyen and Tilanus fluffed their starts, but Van Rooyen recovered and slipped inside Martin as they entered Crowthorne for the first time. Third lap, Van Rooyen was in the lead, a position he was to hold to the end of the race, and Tilanus had displaced Martin for third place. On the road, it was a one-car race, as Van Rooyen opened up the gap on second-place man Duxbury. Nicol spun his old March 722 at the S's, but soon recovered and rejoined the race. But more drama was to come as Martin dived into the pits with a punctured rear tyre. His chances of winning the championship for a second year were diminishing. Charlton retired with gearbox problems, and Martin rejoined the race, having lost a lap. Duxbury was also having gear selection trouble, which allowed Tilanus up to second place and the championship if he could hold his position. Klomfass retired his Ralt with engine trouble, whilst Van Rooyen swept by the checkered flag to win, with Bernard Tilanus 12 seconds behind the new South African champion. A dejected Tony Martin removes his armour, a game loser by just 1 point.
Could you have won the race, do you think? I don't think I could have won the race, but I could have given Trevor a bit more of a hard go than what I had him. But as soon as I saw Tony come out the pits, I realised that he was a lap behind. So that I thought, well, now I must cool it. Now all I've got to do is finish second, because it means that he's out the points. If I finish second, it meant that I could beat him in the championship, which means now I've won the championship. Well, you've made a great South African champion. Well, thank you. Thanks.
First in the 1981 Sigma Series, Bernard Tilanus, 122 points. Second, Tony Martin, 121 points. Third, Graham Duxbury, 109 points. Fourth, Trevor Van Rooyen, 69 points. Fifth, Wayne Taylor, 50 points. Sixth, Roy Klomfass, 24 points.